What's going on, everybody? It's that time again. The AllSooners Podcast, episode 166 on this Thursday night, December 22nd. The rare night pod. We don't do this often, but the situation called for it. It was necessary. Josh Callaway in Oklahoma City, Ryan Chapman in Moore, John Hoover in Tulsa. Guys, it's freezing. It's been a wild 48 hours for Oklahoma fans. Signing day in the rearview. We have a packed show, but the most important thing is everybody's house is warm because good God.
Yeah, it's colder here than Peyton Bowen's hat game.
I was going to go with the fact that I hope that no one can hear the wind whistling outside my window here, but that's actually not the cold front. It's not anything like that. That's just the wind shifting between Eugene and South Bend and finally arriving in Norman.
It's tough when you wake up and it's 3 degrees outside. Wind chill's way lower than that. I was outside with my dog for like not even 2 minutes, and my face was numb. I don't know how people are having life today.
Yeah.
It was a stay inside day for me.
I drove to and from the station, and at no point did my car read double digits ever. And I was like, really? Like, not the sun's up. There's not anything on the ground. 8?
I headed to the mailbox today with my house shoes on and decided I didn't have a tauntaun, so I wasn't going to go all the way out there. So I came back to the Rebel base. So many bad jokes. Brutal. It's cold.
Absolutely brutal. Prayers up for the Armed Forces Bowl crowd down there in Fort Worth. I don't know how they're doing. It's not quite as cold down there, but it's still like 15 or lower. So it's not like it's warm by any means. Thankfully, we'll be in 70-degree Florida for our bowl game next week. We're looking forward to that. We'll have a lot of preview for that game next week. Today, obviously, is going to be a heavy signing day recap show. Like I mentioned at the top, rare night pod. We usually record, if you listen or watch regularly, you know we usually record early Wednesday. We get it out, the audio, Wednesday afternoon. Who usually gets the video version up either Wednesday night or Thursday morning. We bumped it back a day this week because of signing day yesterday. And then we had to bump it back again this afternoon because with everything going on with one Mr. Peyton Bowen, we're like, there's no way we could do this show right now. So we pushed it back, and for good reason. It was fruitful. Peyton Bowen flips. He signs with Oklahoma this afternoon after he had flipped from Notre Dame to Oregon yesterday. Never signed his letter, though. Had second thoughts. He, thought about it, mulled it over, slept on it. The tea leaves are out there. You start to see Jay Valai tweeting memes and Brent Venables tweeting, Bible verses hinting at it. Jackson Arnold starts tweeting memes. And then sure enough, it happened. The 2023 five-star Peyton Bowen commits to Oklahoma. What a wild 24 hours.
I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like it. There's been some wild stuff happen, but when you think about he's been committed for a year to Notre Dame, and then all this talk the last 3 months or so about coming to Oklahoma with a lot of smoke but no fire, and then he shows up to his signing day with hats representing Oregon and Notre Dame, and there's no Oklahoma and there's no Texas A&M, and those are the two that we've been told the last 3 months or so. It's Oklahoma, it's Notre Dame, it's Oklahoma, it's Texas A&M, it's Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Those were the two leaders. He shows up to a signing day without any hats for those two. I went to bed last night, you guys. This is going to crack you up or you're going to think I'm lying or something. I went to bed last night. I'm laying on my head on my pillow, and I'm sitting there thinking, I wonder why Peyton Bowen didn't have an OU hat or a Texas A&M hat at his signing ceremony. These are the things that go through my head when I go to sleep. And so I start thinking about reasons why you would go through a signing thing and not have all the hats representative of all the schools that you're considering. Did he forget his OU hat at home? Was he wearing his Texas A&M hat into this high school and the wind blew it off and carried it off into the street or something? All these things are going through my head. And then I saw a post today on Facebook. I talked to Peyton Bowen, and he said the reason is his girlfriend was rushing back to the house to get the hat. I don't know how true this is. I don't know the veracity of this claim, but they said that he apparently by some measure forgot his OU hat and went ahead and put the Oregon hat on anyway. Who would do such a thing? I don't believe that's a true story. I'm just laying it all out there of how absolutely crazy this is.
Yeah, it was one of those scenarios that lends itself to everyone putting on a different kind of hat, a tinfoil hat, to see what was happening. But for me, headed into yesterday, and I know that the whole ecosystem was so sure this is happening, it's going to be Oklahoma. I was fully in the camp of I will believe it when I see it. I will believe that Peyton Bowen finally has flipped when he has the Oklahoma hat out, when the OU graphics on Twitter, all that stuff. Because for me, it just feels so weird to have visited Oklahoma so many times, to have all the connections working seemingly in Oklahoma's favor, and for him to just never pull the trigger up until this point. It seems like doing it on signing day is the most frustrating or painful way, unless long ago you had kind of whispered to Marcus Freeman, hey, I appreciate it, but I'm gonna do this or that. And Bowen's not been someone that this entire recruiting cycle, he doesn't give a billion interviews, right, that he then pumps from his own social media, or he's not one that just is left, right, and center tossing out graphics or does the Sooner Nation, y'all, what are you thinking? Oregon, Ducks, can you get me to how many fought? Like, that's just not been him. And so to see the Oregon hat was interesting. And I think, too, that kind of speaks to, as we're going to progress in our timelines and all that stuff, but what he put out there on Twitter and Instagram today, where basically it was a 6 or 7 paragraph statement where the very first one was, guys, my bad, I didn't handle yesterday right. The second one is talk about the Oregon staff, then the Notre Dame staff, and then explaining that Oklahoma had always felt home, and then doubling down again and saying, again, the hat thing, that the pump fake, to see a pump fake actually in an official recruit statement is kind of weird. And to go about that and say, again, I apologize and I'm going to learn from this. I thought that was impressive as far as how many times do we see head coaches screw up and things like that are grown adults and go to the podium and just dig themselves a deeper hole, and that doesn't happen. And I think it shows that this was a very tough situation on Peyton Bowen and his family, and it was a tough decision. And so much of the sausage gets made behind the scenes that it feels very rare that it comes out like this. And it was just hell for us to sift through the last month, really, but especially the last 24 hours. And I can't imagine what it was like on the Bowen family going through this whole ordeal.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was looking that up when you mentioned the tweet. The tweet that the first paragraph opens with, as I reflect on yesterday's whirlwind, I recognize that I made some mistakes that I regret and will learn from. Navigating this process has been a roller coaster. So he totally falls on the sword there and realizes, yeah, I screwed up. I probably should have handled that differently. Good for him for owning that and recognizing that, for whatever it is, call it what you want, whether it's the coaching staff or the fan base or the people, the media who have been calling him nonstop, right? He hurt some people, and his actions misled some people, and the Notre Dame coaching staff and the Notre Dame recruiters this is a guy that they've poured endless resources into. And that's why I asked the question to Brent Venables yesterday, if a guy that you've poured endless resources into goes to another school in the age of the transfer portal, can you burn that bridge? And he said, no, absolutely not. He's not about burning bridges anyway. Brent's not. So it felt like, did it not feel like, guys, yesterday when we were talking about this, like a matter of time before he comes to Oklahoma? I didn't know it would be 24 hours. I thought it would be like 12 months.
Well, yeah, we did the recap yesterday, and I said there, it does not feel like this is over. And again, I'm not going to act like I foresaw him flipping again, one day later, but it just didn't feel like it was over. It didn't, and it wasn't. Yeah. And now Oklahoma hopes it is. He is signed, so he's a Sooner for at least a year. Obviously then you figure out from there. But I think it's a reminder that these are high school kids that are making a big decision, and especially in modern, NIL world, getting lots of money thrown at them. Who knows? Who knows? And hopefully he, whether it's with, us, the OU beat in due time, or sometime down the road, can illuminate us in everything that went on, because it feels like he was probably really conflicted, and hopefully he wound up with what he believes is the right decision, and it works out for him.
By all accounts, his mom wanted him to go to Notre Dame. Everybody else wanted him to go to Oregon because that was where the biggest bag was coming from, apparently, right. Allegedly. Oklahoma probably not competing on that level at first. Maybe they came around. Maybe they got the collectives together and did that. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, but You've got Jackson Arnold going to Oklahoma. You've got a bunch of his high school friends going to Oklahoma. You got his family nearby, right up the road in Denton, going to Oklahoma for games. And you've got his girlfriend who's on the soccer team at Oklahoma. So it all adds up. He went finally. The good news is for everybody involved, if you're cheering for Peyton Bowen in any way, he went where his heart led him, which is Oklahoma.
Banner day for the OU Soccer Twitter, by the way.
Massive day. Who? That's Patrick Dunn, right? It's the OU Twitter as the SID for soccer. I'm not sure if he's the one who fired that tweet off, but if so, bravo, sir. That was well done. That was an all-timer. I don't think OU Soccer is ever going to have a tweet that pops off like that.
I'm just going to say the man that, if you're in the Skull Sparks community, which is a very weird undercurrent that we live in, the man that produces more impressions than like the next like 10 softball programs combined when that absolute machine is running, I would project that that was the mastermind behind Oklahoma soccer having its day in the sun. A program on the up, by the way. Tune in next year. Mark Carr's got that thing rolling in the right direction. Just FYI.
The simplicity is what makes it so good. No, you don't need much. You don't need much. An emoji or two and a photo, and you're good. You've said it all with that. What do you guys think about just the win of it? Obviously, we talk about the insanity of it, but getting back to just the football part, what a dub this is for Oklahoma. I mean, we talked about it on the wrap yesterday. You know, it was disappointing for Oklahoma to. I mean, the spin zone is how can you lose something you never had, right? He was never committed to OU. He was a Notre Dame commit for a year, quite literally almost. January 1st when he committed. Oklahoma's looked at as this great chance to flip him. Arnold and obviously the girlfriend connection, all that never happened, and then he ends up flipping, but to Oregon instead. But now you find a way to get him. You move into the number 5 spot in 247 Sports ranking, which is the highest they've had in a really long time. Lincoln Riley never had a top 5 class, which is nuts. That after a 6-6 season, Oklahoma's able to do this. You have 3 5-stars, 2 of them are on defense. I mean, just removing all the craziness. It's just a huge get. I mean, this is a big addition.
Enormous, absolutely enormous, because it's the first time. Okay, so my knowledge of recruiting rankings goes back a little further than what we're currently looking at from Rivals and Scout and 24/7 Sports and ESPN. The online recruiting era is what we're calling it. About 1999, 2000 is when those guys got together and started putting their recruiting rankings out, started really following it heavily. So that's our database, goes back to about 99, 2000. In that era, this is the first time that Oklahoma has signed 2 5-stars on defense. Think about that. That's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. They've had some unbelievable defenses over the last 25 years. This is the first time they've signed 2. So we spin it back to December, what the heck was it, December 5th, December 7th? I can't even remember the date anymore. It's all blurred together. 2021, when Brent Venables gets off the airplane and everybody's at the airport and they're all cheering because they know, boy, our defense is going to look so much better. The fans are out there cheering because they know Oklahoma has a defense again. Brent Venables is bringing back that defensive philosophy, that defensive mentality. This is the byproduct of that. It's been in the works for 12 months, exactly, almost a little more than 12 months, that Brent Venables is going to restore the roar, so to speak, on the Oklahoma defense, something that's been missing for a decade. And this is the first real sign of that. Last year's class was good defensively. This year's class, pretty elite.
Yeah, bear with me. I promise I'm not dragging us into the dredges and who's going to freak out when I say this. But if you watch like political reporting, when a new president comes in, whoever that is, there's always this search of what's the first big event that so-and-so just became president today. Like President Obama just became president. President Trump just became president. Well, everyone's searching for that moment. Oklahoma going 6-6 and dropping a top 5 class. Oklahoma became an SEC school this recruiting cycle. This is what the SEC does. You recruit, doesn't matter what the on-the-field product is. That determines if you recruit like Alabama and Georgia, which is just lapping everyone yet again in recruiting, or this determines if you recruit the likes of LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn when they pop in there, Tennessee when they pop in there. And so the difference at Oklahoma, historically, it's always been they recruit well. Let's not act like Oklahoma's a woe is me, school the poor. That's not them. But they don't recruit at the top 2 or 3 level. They recruit in that 5 to 15. And then development is what sets Oklahoma apart from a lot of the spots. So this Brent Venables in year one with his first full recruiting class, putting himself, laying that marker down and saying, if you look at rivals, Oklahoma's the 5th SEC school because they're a couple spots lower in rivals. They're behind LSU, Texas, Alabama, Georgia. If you look at 247, they're 4th behind. They're above LSU and behind the 3 others. That would be, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, OU
right.
in 247.
Oh, 4th. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Behind 3. You're my mistake. My mistake.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so what Brent Venables has done is said that he's put Oklahoma on that path that if they can float between 5 and 8 every year, and when the stars align and you've got enough talent right in your backyard, whether it be a great Oklahoma preps class that helps bolster you, a ton of kids in Dallas where we've seen Jay Valai put in that work, that's when Oklahoma's going to be able to punch above and say, maybe we can sneak into the top 3, top 2 is what they're telling themselves. Brent Venables has set Oklahoma on that path. The next step, you got to improve on the field next year so that momentum keeps rolling, especially as they head toward the SEC.
Yep. Good point. Bob Stoops used to say, you go 12-2 or win the Big 12, play for the national championship, you can expect a big boost in recruiting, not that year, but the year after. Not that December, January, February recruiting cycle, but the year after. So it's always about a 12-month space. So for Oklahoma to improve next year in 2023, drastically improve, put some of these freshmen to work, but put a better product out on the field than 6-6 is an absolute must. If you lose that momentum, that 6-6 kick downwards, that drain that comes from being 6-6 is really going to show up if you don't improve this coming season.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you can't to do this after the 6-6 season is incredibly impressive, but it's not a formula you can count on replicating over and over. I mean, yeah, you have to start to perform on the field. The best teams are your Georgias, your Bamas, your Ohio States. They're competing for national titles every year. So that's definitely true. It's going to have to turn around. At least nobody's saying Oklahoma is being the playoff next year, but you don't want to go 6-6 again and expect to try and replicate this. If you asked me yesterday, I probably would have said A- for this. Now A+. I don't know what more you could hope for, really. First year for Venables, and after the 6-6, like we said, you get 3 5-stars, 2 on defense. You get your 5-star future face of the program quarterback. There's not much to complain about. And how about Brent Venables yesterday at his press conference? Repeatedly saying we have 25 guys when they only had 24.
Yeah,
there's the bravado and confidence, I guess, that we're in good shape. We're going to be good. I don't know if he was saying 25 over and over because he purely felt like they were going to get Bowen. I don't know, but it worked out.
One could say it was drippy. He was feeling drippy.
He was feeling drippy.
I don't know what was it. I don't know what that. I think what happened with that jacket is he either lost a bet or he promised some recruit. Some recruit's grandma made it and said, "See if your coach will wear this on his press conference." And he's like, "Coach, Grammy says you got to wear this at your press conference," and he fulfilled some promise. I don't know. That was out of character for him, was it not?
Here's the scoop that I know every single person listening to this podcast has been waiting for. I hovered like a madman at that podium right after Brent Venables left, knowing Jeff Levy was up next, because I needed to ask. I had to ask. So, Jeff, did he make one of those for everyone on staff, or was that just a BV special? And he's like, he showed up today, and I was like, more power to him. So, Jeff Levy does not possess one of those. It was not a staff line.
Brent Venables goes rogue on fashion. Is what that was. That was Russell Westbrook showing up in his official photographer thing. He just came out in his own style, his own drip. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I just posted this about a half hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago. Defensive signees, defensive recruiting rankings for the past 10 years at Oklahoma. Go to AllSooners.com. Got a big graphic there. It lays out the numbers and the names and all that stuff, percentages and all that good stuff. This class average ranking per player on defense only, is 0.9185. 0.9185. The 2021 class averaged per player 0.9210, which is higher than 0.9185. So that class ranked per player higher. Difference is this year's class signed 15, that year's class signed 10. There's also the 2018 class, which signed 15, and their ranking per player on defense only was 9128. So they've put out everything else, by the way. Every other class for the last 10 years is below 90%. So that tells you right there, just in terms of quantity and quality, this is Oklahoma's best defensive class in at least the last 10 years. I stopped at 2014 because that was a good little demarcation, but best defensive class without question, in my opinion, without question since at least 2014.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing things like that. I think Venables is going to have to bring the jacket back. I mean, if it lands you number 5 and you're winning battles, I mean, I think you gotta do it again. Maybe Big 12 Media Days you bring it out. Who knows? Just rock it all the time. We're on the sideline. Why not? It worked out for you this time around. Let's keep it going. Have an array, like 5 different ones. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a whole thing for Brent Venables coming down the line. All right. Let's take a break here. We'll come back. We're going to now dive into the full class, talk about some players that we're excited about, ones we're interested in, of course, the big ones, your Jackson Arnolds, your PG Adebores. We'll break down those guys as well. We'll look at the entire class as a whole next up right here on the AllSooners Podcast. On Twitter, you can follow AllSooners at @all_Sooners. Ryan is at _Ryan Chapman. Who's at John E. Hoover. I'm at Josh M. Callaway. Our website is allsooners.com. We are a Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. All right, let's talk about this class overall now. 25 guys when you add Peyton Bowen in there. Obviously, we already talked about Bowen, but the other 24, there's a lot to like we just said. All these great things on the defensive side. 14 defensive players, 10 offensive, led by Jackson Arnold. Let's get him in there first. So he's finally signed now for Oklahoma. Brent Venables, Jeff Lebby, we're finally able to actually talk about this guy. It's just one of those funny things because he's been committed since January. You've known he was the future forever, but it's the way recruiting works, the way the rules work. Venables, Lebby can't talk about them. So finally, they could yesterday. You got to hear Brent Venables and Lebby gush about what they have in Jackson Arnold. Brent Venables, of course, said he was a foundational player. And just to hear them both talk about him, it's clear that they know they have a guy here. And it's nothing new. We're not breaking any news here, but boy, I mean, and a big part of this class is because of Arnold. I mean, who knows if they get Bowen without that Arnold connection, or some of these other guys that Arnold just helped recruit, basically. What a future stud it feels like Oklahoma has in Jackson Arnold. Just that Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams leader, people gravitate to him kind of thing going on. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what he looks like in spring ball.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see how he compares to other college athletes. Watching him in high school, it looked like I drew this comparison in a story I wrote about him for Wednesday. I posted at midnight on Wednesday. And there's a lot of people comparing him to Baker Mayfield because he's got that magnetism to him. He's got that swagger to him, and he's got that kind of cockiness that he throws one of these down when he scores a touchdown in the camera, right? It's like, yeah, he's a little bit like Baker Mayfield. In terms of the way he plays with excitement, he scores a touchdown, he dives over a pile, gets flipped into the end zone, dives over a pile and starts flexing on people, right? That's Jackson Arnold. That's cool. Everybody likes that. But when he's on the field and he's playing and he's throwing the football and he's commanding the offense and he's in control of manipulating the defense, guys, it reminded me of Sam Bradford, just in that everything he does looks effortless. And the comparison I drew was I tossed it to Reed Heim, his high school coach, and he said that's a perfectly appropriate comparison. Sam Bradford, he was on the Baylor staff when Sam Bradford played his only game for the Sooners, his only full game in 2009. And he was over there watching Sam throw for 389 yards going, how are we supposed to stop this guy? Sam was effortless. He was so effortless that Bob Stoops called him the Big Easy. Kind of like the Ernie Els nickname, right? The Big Easy. Everything he did was effortless. Everything he did looked smooth, except for when he was running. Sometimes he did look like a giraffe when he was running. I think our man Jackson Arnold's a little more athletic on the move when he's running around. But just in terms of smooth and effortless and spinning the football, as Jeff Lebby said, he's really got every tool in the box.
Yeah, the really interesting thing is it feels like it's not incredibly common for when you flip on Denton Geyer and you watch them play, they're running Jeff Lebby's offense. Like that you mentioned Baylor stat, like there's a familiarity there. And so it makes it almost that much easier to project of, yeah, he's going to see a lot of that at Oklahoma. So they're not asking him to do a bunch of things that are different. So my big questions are, he's got all the arm strength in the world, all that stuff. the big unknown always for quarterbacks is, okay, you're taking another step up, and he'll be stepping to the SEC with those, when the Georgia defensive line's bearing down on him, how well does he keep his cool? That's a question every single quarterback has to answer. What's up, Malik Hooker? And then the other question will be, he was able to run away from people, run over people at the high school level. And he's playing at a very, very big class, obviously, in Texas. But you take that step up again to the SEC. What's that going to look like? He's going to be mobile. I'm just curious how mobile, what that looks like. Because oddly enough, I don't have any concerns about the arm. He's shown that he can, if he needs to beat you over the top, he can deliver a beautiful ball for a receiver to run under. If he needs to rifle that bad boy over the middle into a tight window, boom, check that box. He's done that. He shows you everything that you'll want to see. It's just a matter of taking that step up and look at what it's like. But Brent Venables named him a foundational piece, which was not surprising for me. I think the real statement comes from Jeff Lebby, who's a guy that doesn't talk bad about his players, but he's precise and short with his words generally. And when he just basically says, yeah, he's going to be the face of Oklahoma football here in a few years, I think that tells you that he's got all the confidence in the world that Jackson Arnold is going to fit right in, whether that be in 2 years or whatever that is.
Yeah, and I agree with Jeff Lebby because he just has that. It's more than just being good, which we know he is. He's got that. Players gravitate to him. Brent Venables said he makes everyone around him better. That's a face of the program type of guy. And the mobility is, I don't want to say overlooked, but the guy ran for 20-plus touchdowns this year. Had a really high level of Texas high school football, like 700-800 yards, something like that. Hey, he can move. So that's going to be fun to see. We have a ton of time, obviously, to talk about it in the spring and obviously going to next season. But just initial gut reaction right now on December 22nd, 2022. Does Jackson Arnold push for playing time next year? Is this a controversy?
The answer, in short, the answer is no. Dillon Gabriel, if Dillon Gabriel, who's been teasing, I haven't made my decisions yet. I haven't made any announcements yet. I'm talking to the family, get my family right, all that stuff. If he leaves, then yes, Jackson Arnold is probably your starter next year, most likely, right? If Dillon comes back, he's going to spend a year learning from Dillon. Reedheim told me, his high school coach again, told me that he's looking forward to being the backup. He's looking forward to spending his time learning the system, learning how college works, learning how college football works, learning what to do with the football when, the defense shows you certain things. And you can only really learn that from the bench. Some of those things you can only really learn that from the bench while another guy is out there starting. And you're talking about a four-year college football starter in Dillon Gabriel. Very experienced, very knowledgeable, and communicates well. So, 100% he's going to be the backup next year. Would not surprise me, though, if he played more than 4 games in an effort to get him ready to be the man in 2024. And I mean, by the man, I mean like all Big 12. They want him to be a superstar, so they're going to feed him a lot of reps next year.
I think you mean all SEC.
Yeah.
Or all SEC.
Allegedly. The way I've been talking about this, because as you know, Hoove, this is something that is a listener question over and over and over again, is do I expect Jackson Arnold straight up, if Dillon Gabriel plays 12 regular season games next year, do I expect Jackson Arnold to start any games? No. What I do expect is if Dillon Gabriel busts a chin strap and the equipment crew takes a drive to figure that out, because we're not wishing injury on anyone, I don't like to put that out there. The way I've said it is I expect Jackson Arnold to be trusted to throw more than one forward pass and to not have to play wide receiver for a majority of his drive out on the field. And I don't think they'll be afraid to say, you think that we've got this freshman in here for one drive that we're going to hand off, and reevaluate on third down. I would bet a lot that if Jackson Arnold is inserted into a game like that on a first down to start a series off, Jeff Lebby's taking a shot first down. Play action, over the top, taking a shot, letting his young gun try and make something happen while, again, they work on Dillon Gabriel's chin strap on the sideline for a couple plays.
Going to create a controversy. They're going to throw a 65-yard touchdown pass, and it's going to be, that's our starter. They're going to start chanting, we want Jackson. You've heard it before.
It'll be, and now the student section's empowered because Caleb Williams is just that dude. It'll be more akin to I liken it to telling Kyler Murray, bro, you had a whole drive against West Virginia, and you damn near scored on the first play. Have some fun. Play a couple of plays. Move the offense down the field.
Yeah. 80-yard run right out of the chute. That was the tell. The Kyler guy's going to probably be pretty good eventually. Yeah, I mean, first off, yeah, I'd be floored if Dylan Gabriel's not back, and then I'd be floored if he's not the week 1 starter next year. He even kind of downplayed it because we talked to him on Monday, and he was asked if he made a decision, and he was like, no, I haven't. He's like, but I promise you. Like, he was kind of like, don't make a big deal that I'm waiting. Like, you kind of try to do that thing, like tell us without telling us type of thing. So he's going to say he's back, and he'll be starting week 1, but I think that the first time that he's missing open guys or they're trailing against Texas or whoever their Big 12 opener is, like, the murmurs are gonna happen.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, especially if Arnold has a good spring game in a few months. What if these guys are on separate teams? What if they go head to head in the spring game, which they probably will, and they're like Crimson versus Cream or Gabriel versus Arnold? Like, what happens if Arnold is way better in the spring game? Like, this conversation is going to be happening, whether they want it or not. It's going to happen.
I am here for the head-to-head spring game competition, man.
Yeah.
No more all-time court. Well, that seriously, on a actual serious note, if even if it's not Jackson Arnold, if Bevel's trusted, who obviously wasn't there for the spring game last go around, and Arnold are trusted to not have Dylan Gabriel play all-time offense for basically the entire first half, just so that you can actually evaluate things, yeah. Oklahoma's in such a better spot than they would have been this whole portion of last year.
It's going to be exciting. And like I said, I mean, it's a total, obviously, everybody's going to say this, but got to be the most exciting guy to see in the spring. Just what does he look like? Because whenever I only got to see him throw in person one time with Ryan at Elite 11. He was the best guy there by a lot. So it's exciting to see what that looks like when we get there.
And real quick, just the guys that'll be candidates for us to look at spring. This is the updated release that includes Peyton Bowen. This is planned mid-year enrollees, so it may change if I wouldn't expect it to, because there's a lot of credits and stuff. But here are the planned mid-year enrollees: PJ Adebore, Jackson Arnold, Joshua Bates, Kendall Dolby, Caden Green, Caleb Hicks, Derek LeBlanc, Eric McCarty, Phil Pachotti, Ashton Sanders, Dalen Smothers, who, shout out, actually you need to talk about him legally as opposed to what Brent Venables accidentally did a couple of weeks ago, Makari Vickers, and Josiah Wagner. Those are currently what OU has announced are the planned mid-year enrollees that maybe we can look at in the spring game a little bit.
13 guys is that total. 13 total players will be there early.
Nice group. Yeah, nice group that we'll get a chance to get to see. What about the rest of the offensive guys? Obviously, Arnold is going to be the number one, but the rest of it, is there anybody, that you're in particular that you guys are circling as I'm excited to see? Not necessarily in the spring, because it could be somebody who's not enrolling early, but next year, in the future, you just think they're going to be good. Is there anybody in particular that jumps out to you, obviously outside of Arnold, who's the kind of the given?
I'm going to say Caden Green. I've seen his highlights, and I haven't seen him play live, but I've seen his highlights, and they don't look normal. He does not look like a normal high school football offensive lineman. He reminds you of those the collage, not the collage. What am I trying to say? The cut ups, I guess, in the training montage, right? In Blindside. When you see him wiping people out 2 or 3 at a time, he's driving one guy and he's pushing him into another. He's impressive. I would not be surprised to see him. And we say this every year with some offensive lineman somewhere, right? Somewhere somebody's like, oh, I'm sure he's going to get some snaps. I just get a feeling he's going to call Bill Beedenbow out if he doesn't get any snaps, take him to the woodshed or something. I mean, he is Brent Venables said he's mean. He's got a mean streak to him. He wants to play, and he's going to do everything in his power to play. I'm joking about the Bill Beedenbow thing, but I could see it like, Coach, put me in, give me the damn ball, whatever the thing is you want to say there. But yeah, Caden Green would be my guy on offense.
Yeah. I wrote the offensive line story today on AllSooners.com. You guys know me. That's always been my pet project, always, much to Josh's chagrin. At times he's like, just freaking put it away. Don't worry about it. So Caden Green, Joshua Bates, I don't think is given enough credit, a guy that shot up the rankings. But the guy I'm pumped to see is Caleb Hicks. The forgotten other Dentonian sounds better. I like that better. In this group from Billy Bowman's old stomping grounds at Denton Ryan, he looks like he could be special at running back for me. Just what he's done at Denton Ryan, it seems like he's a guy. The thing that sticks out to me about him is the open field stuff. That always looks great. And on high school highlight tapes, some of that you kind of get numb to. But when he gets to the next level and he's running in the middle of the field and suddenly he just makes himself small and pushes forward and just bounces, and it appears he's always spinning forward. Like even if he spins out and loses his balance, he spins out 3-4 yards forward, gets that thing going. I think that Caleb Hicks has a chance to be a really underrated kind of powerful runner, and I'm excited to see what he kind of does if that's something that gets him a look early, or if he sits behind a Javonte Barnes, a Gavin Sawchuk, those guys, and just kind of gets to work on his body even more. Not that like it's needed, but gets to really refine that for a year before bursting onto the scene.
Josh, I'll add Cade McIntyre too, just because you and I got to meet him up in near Omaha. Power lifter, explosive guy, plays safety and receiver and defensive end and whatever position they need for him. Punt returner. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And Brent Venables told us yesterday they gave him a choice. You could play offense or you could play defense, and he said he chose offense. He chose tight end. So, this is a team that has, when Braden Willis goes to the league next year, they're going to have a need for a tight end. So, I'd be interested to see if he can step up and play. 6'4", 210 right now, probably going to play at about 220, 225 his freshman year.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those guys. Yeah, Caden Green, NFL player. You could just tell already. And Caleb Hicks, I mean, Brent Venables said he was the best guy on the field week in and week out at, again, very high level of Texas high school football. It's a big statement. I'll go ahead and round it out. We hit every other position. But Jacquez Petaway, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know the right word here, overlooked or not. He's like the most highly touted recruit Oklahoma's had offensively that's not talked about at all. Like, if you look at the recruiting class, Arnold's number 1, Bowen and PJ Adebore are 2-3. Jacquez Petaway is the 4th highest rated recruit in this class after those guys. He's a future stud. So excited to see him too. And especially, the freshman receivers last year didn't have any impact hardly. Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson. I don't know. I mean, they're going to have receivers. There's possibly they're in on some transfer guys. Marvin Mims may be back, but if Petaway could get in there at all, like could he be a freshman who has an impact? Maybe even similar to kind of what Mario Williams did last year. Not a making plays over the place, but he's out there, he's playing, he's having an impact. So excited to see him too. Jacquez Petaway, he's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. So a lot of talented guys in this offense, and we're you definitely hit all the big ones. I'm curious also with Jacoby Johnson, just which way does he go? Because that's another guy who's really, really, really talented as well.
He can play both ways, and he can play basketball.
Yeah. And he can play basketball. He was a Lon Kruger offer.
Yep.
Once upon a time, I don't know if that offer still. I don't know. That hasn't been touched on at all, if that's still a thing.
He's got a football scholarship, so he doesn't need a basketball scholarship, so he can walk onto the basketball team if he wants to. It's up to him. And I'm pretty certain that Porter Moser would let him walk on.
He's not going to let him play with any kind of pace, though. That's not going to be – I guess they've gotten a little bit better at that. Sorry. I'll get off my soapbox.
We'll get into the hoops a little later. They did have a big win, but
they did.
A lot of talented players in this offense, 10 guys committed, and, there's all that fear, Lincoln Riley leaves. Are they still going to get these blue chip offensive guys? They got some pretty good ones coming up here in this signing class.
Who needs 3, 4, 5-star wide receivers and 5-star quarterbacks? I mean, they got a 5-star quarterback. Those guys didn't always pan out, those 5-star receivers and stuff. In fact, more often than not, they didn't. So start on defense, get your quarterback, and let all the other pieces fall into place.
Real quick, speaking of just the little nugget that happened. Did you see that DeAndre Moore just flipped from Louisville to Texas? I guess not a big fan of Jeff Brom. We'll see. Speaking of names of old.
Nope, that's a big one. Texas is doing some good things in recruiting this year. Number 3 class in the country right now. They got some guys that Oklahoma wanted.
Well, the good news is, John, they've never recruited well in their lives. And
that's true.
That's always been the problem. They can never get the talent.
Did y'all see the note from Mike Houck just a few minutes ago? As of 7:45 p.m. Thursday, OU football has signed 7 of ESPN's top 57 prospects, or 7 of 57 is 12%. Trails only Alabama. So if you're talking about quality at the top of the list, Oklahoma's got quality at the top of the list. That's something else that I said. The 7 guys on the 24/7 Sports in my story. You'll read this at AllSooners. 7 guys. Ranked with a rating, individual player rating of 93 or higher. Those other 2 classes that I told you about, one had 4, one had 3. This class has 7 guys that are ranked 93 or higher. That's never been done before at Oklahoma.
Really impressive. And look at OU, already chucking the ESPN rankings now that they're headed.
That's right.
Yeah, and that Alabama class is considered historically good. So nothing to sniff at or sneeze at to be trailing them in this cycle. Flip over to defense. So let's get the big one out of the way. So we talk about Peyton Bowen, who is, I guess, now the premier defensive player in this class. But right behind him, or right there with him, is PJ Adebawore, who is 5-star as well. We talked about him, whenever he committed, he was like a good get, and it just kept being better and better. He kept climbing all the boards, all the rankings, eventually becoming a 5-star, number 4 at his position in 247's rankings. I mean, he's got all the makings, got a very athletic family. His brother's probably going to be a high NFL draft pick. So he's the big obvious. He's really, really exciting. We had a story about him yesterday on AllSooners.com. I believe, Ryan, you wrote that one. I mean, he's one of the guys. I mean, obviously, before they got Peyton Bowen, was definitely the centerpiece. Now it's kind of their co-centerpieces. But, man, he's got a lot to be excited about, too. I'm curious if he has any potential to work in right away, too, just because he's got so much ability and athleticism and all that stuff that you just pops off the screen when you watch him.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch PJ. He's just so powerful. He thuds like a hammer, and he's got long arms, and he's explosive off the line. You put those three things together, and you've got a quarterback's worst nightmare. So I want to see him get in there and get his hands on some offensive tackles, refine his technique, refine his pass rushing technique. I'm sure Miguel Chavis will have those guys out there well after 9 o'clock every night working on their craft like they've been doing this year. There's a couple guys that I want to see in particular on this defense. One is Kendall Dobie. I interviewed him when he committed, and he, you look at his film and you see a guy that knows how to catch a football in the air and take it away from a receiver. Sounds very basic, doesn't it? Sounds like that's what you're supposed to do. Have we seen a guy like that at Oklahoma since Zach Sanchez? A guy who actually thinks the ball belongs to him? That's what Kendall Dobie reminds me of. Is a little bit of that ball hawking. That football belongs to me. Who's the other guy? I want to see the local kid, Eric McCarty, of course. Got to get his knee healthy, but I get the feeling that he plays with violence. Like Brent Venable said yesterday about who was the linebacker that he said plays with
Carter,
violence.
Lewis Carter.
Yes.
Lewis Carter is going to start a fight at Oklahoma.
Yes,
it's not going to be anything other than him just absolutely obliterating somebody.
It's Josh's favorite player, I'm sure. Josh, that's who you were going to throw out there. Is just the guy that creates collisions. He excels in collisions.
Yeah. I make the high school tapes for all these guys on AllSooners.com. You can go watch them, and nobody has a more fun tape than Lewis Carter just killing people. I mean, just annihilating people off the edge. That poor punter will never be the same.
I was about to say, that as I was going back through, watching everyone's film again for all the capsules, which, by the way, please go to AllSooners.com and sift through those, please. Please. But I had totally forgotten that Lewis Carter ends a punter's life on just like right off the top. And I was just like cracking up. Scout the Dog's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I was just like, I know you don't understand, but there's this punter that I remember talking about, and then it just surprises you.
Well, because when I put those together, I don't put every single play. I watch a lot more plays than I put in there. I kind of pick and choose, like, let's not put that one in. Let's, these ones are better. Only one about 2 minutes. I was like, that one is going in. Like, that is the most slam dunk getting put in of any that I've ever seen. That play is wicked.
It's almost like Samaje Perine stiff arming somebody in the NFL. It's violent. It's like, oh my God, what did he do? It's so terrifying. Another one for me is Makari Vickers. I know I took all the good ones, but
thanks,
Bill.
If you've got a seatbelt and you're going click every time you lock somebody down, that's the way he puts it together. So I talked to him, and he is a kid that's got a good head on his shoulders. Just talking to him and getting his perspective on life. If you guys missed that story, search Makari Vickers SI or Makari Vickers AllSooners, and it'll pop up in your Google feed, because it was a fun story to write.
Yeah, not much left on the cutting room floor. No, kidding. That's what happens when you sign 15 really good defensive recruits. We can just go on and on. Real quick on Adebawore, he's a guy, too, that he had shot up, and I know that this is kind of new to the recruiting biz and all that stuff, so everyone's kind of apprehensive to put it. But he's the number 7 overall player for On3. So that's someone that I know I talk about this a lot because I just pour through a bunch of athletic stuff usually, mainly covering Chelsea. They're my happiness to do that. But like Bruce Feldman's Freaks List, PJ's brother's been on that, I think, the last 2 years, and that's just a measure of athleticism. Not necessarily like, are you the best football player? Are you going to go number one overall? But he puts that list together so you can see in the NFL when they're looking for unreal measurement, stuff like that. So that runs in the family. And Oklahoma just hasn't had one of those guys defensively in a long time. Like, I know we talk about a lot, Caleb Kelly being the last defensive 5-star they signed in 2016. He might be the last guy that's just that athletic. And we saw so many times, even with all the injuries that Caleb Kelly sustained, he was still flying over the football field. And so when you're adding that to the defensive line, that's what Oklahoma needs. I'm really excited to watch a lot of these secondary guys. You've mentioned a bunch of them, so I'll throw in one that you didn't. Josiah Wagner, he's another guy that he's not obliterating punters, but when you turn his film on, him and Kendall Dolby, if you are concerned that CJ Colton's leaving, if you're worried about what is the corner room going to look like, and you're like Woody Washington, Gentry Williams, what else? Put on Kendall Dolby and put on Josiah Wagner and go to AllSooners.com. Look at the videos that Josh put together. These are two guys that, yes, the ball skills are great, but I just watched those two guys rifle through and just finish tackles through wide receivers that are bigger than them and things like that. And you just go, yeah, Oklahoma's not going to have to coach any tackling with either one of these two guys. As long as they take the right angle, they're going to arrive and they're going to hit the hell out of somebody. And so that's just exciting because we haven't seen at Oklahoma what we've covered, a secondary that truly flies around like that in a long time. And it feels like of the 7 guys they signed, you pop anyone up there and I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. A lot to be excited about because the secondary has been such a bugaboo for Oklahoma fans. It was better last year. And Jay Valai, man, with getting Peyton Bowen, I mean, he's looking like a potential. We talk about that a lot during the season of what Miguel Chavis. Jay Valai, man, that guy is a sneaky kind of star in the making in the coaching ranks right now.
Well, the other thing with Jay Valai, too, I know OU fans don't want to hear this name, all that stuff, but remember the Anthony Evans situation of what happened with Peyton Bowen, where Jay Valai gets on the phone and is like, yo, let's talk through this. It wasn't signing day, and Evans ended up flipping back to Georgia anyway, but Valai was the guy that was in the mix with Anthony Evans saying, no. You want to commit to Oklahoma, we got something going here. So I don't know what's better, his corner development, his gift game on Twitter, or the fact that he can just – it seems like if Jay Valai just sits down in a room long enough with a kid from the state of Texas, they're going to put on an OU hat, whether that's on signing day or just when they're announcing their commitment.
Absolutely. And I will toss one more in. I mean, Lewis Carter has got the most fun tape. Nothing will ever top that. But not far off is Samuel Omasigo. That guy also just flies around and hurts people. He is a lot of fun to watch as well. He is really explosive. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch, too. From Crandall, Texas. So he's down there. Texas high school football as well. He's a lot of fun to watch as well. I'll also throw in Taylor Wine, who we talked about not long ago. He's real low, right? Just 3-star, not super. I mean, he has lots of offers. He's going to Oklahoma. He's not a scrub, but not at the top of this list. He's not going to be one of the obvious guys you handpick because he's not at the top. He's toward the bottom. He's a lot of fun to watch. I think he's got a ton of upside. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't also mention real quick, too, Marcus Strong, who came out of nowhere, or at least for us, came out of nowhere and signed with Oklahoma. He wasn't even committed before the day, not publicly at least. And he committed and signed. He's a 3-star DL from Florida, so they add a little bit of depth there with Mr. Marcus Strong as well. So this defensive class is good. Like I said, there's a lot to be excited about.
You want me to rain on everybody's parade real quick? I'll do it in a very expedient manner.
Why not?
Go to 24/7 Sports team rankings. OU Insider. Look for the rankings, the individual 2023 team rankings. Then click on the 2023 and hit the drop down menu and start scrolling through 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017. You're going to see some names that you don't even recognize in some of those classes. And you're going to say, wait a minute, who? And you're going to say, what happened to that guy? And then you're going to say, I remember him. And then you're going to say, oh, yeah, he flamed out. He never played. He was a bust. It's like, what is – holy cow. Listen, guys, this is a good class. It is really hard to play college football. You can be a fantastic high school football player. You can be an amazing prospect, but getting to the team, getting to college football, getting on the team and playing against guys that are your peers, it's really hard. And so don't be surprised if 5 years from now we're looking back at this class and 50% of them never made it, never made an impact on the field. I know that sucks, and it's a dirty thing to say on National Signing Day week, but let's just temper, national championship expectations and all that. You got to have them, but at the same time, don't put too much pressure on these kids to be All-Americans when they come in as freshmen. Let them develop, give them time, let the coaches coach them is one of the main things, and let them become young men instead of the boys that they are in high school.
Well, everyone knows the last time Oklahoma fans and media, we all did this too, looked for a year and circled it, was like, 2021, that feels like a year that Oklahoma could really take that step. And we all know that OU went out and won the national championship last year and that nothing bad happened all year long. It was not a soap opera. No. Stars do matter for sure, but that's why I talked about earlier. It's so crucial for Oklahoma to play a hell of a lot better on the field next year so that you can, again, put yourself in another situation to try and build another top 5 class, because this is the way that I look at it. The stars absolutely do matter because they're telling you one thing. What's the floor? What's the athletic floor of this team? If you can stack top 5 class on top 5 class on top 5 class, your full floor is going to get higher and higher and higher. And then from there, it's on the coaching staff to develop those guys. And that's the formula that Alabama and Georgia have, right? That it's incredible coaching staffs and really high floors. That's the problem that Texas had for a really long time, is athletically really high floor, and they didn't develop those guys. So it can go a couple of ways. Bob Stoops was incredible at blending those two things. Brent Venables needs to show here that this team needs to take that step forward and develop on the field. And then as they stack classes and classes, that's how you inch closer and closer.
Yeah, we will close the segment here on just a touch of negativity on the way out. Tassili Akana, this was it was a rough day yesterday for Oklahoma fans because you had the whole Bowen thing, and then Akana was kind of the salt in the wound. He goes to Texas, announced his commitment. I think he signed, I'm assuming. He goes to Texas. He's the number 4 edge, according to 247 Sports. He's only 16 in the composite, which is rare you see that big of a difference. But he goes to Texas, so you lose a guy you were chasing, goes to the Longhorns, which is, again, a little bit of a twist of the knife. Now, that all kind of washes away with the fact that you got Bowen today, softens that blow a lot. But you did lose one there a little bit. So acknowledge that, because Oklahoma was obviously chasing Akana for a long time. I actually remember writing a story about Oklahoma making his final 5 or whatever it was, or I don't know, something about offering him or something like last summer. Like, it was a long time. They've been in on him a long time, and just it didn't end up happening. He goes to Texas instead.
Yep, that's a bad one. Yesterday was like, okay, so Oklahoma signed a really good class, right? But yesterday was like you failed your final. Your final exam, right? You still made an A in the class, but you failed your final exam because on signing day you didn't get the 2 guys or the 3 guys that you thought you wanted. To pep things up a little bit, the Sooners found out that the professor that failed them on the final was fired, and the dean came in and said, "You all got A's, and you get Peyton Bowen." So it's a little bit like that. You got this big high, and then you go down here, and then all of a sudden, you're back up again because the dean came in and gave you an A. There's still David Hicks hanging out there. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but as of 4 hours ago, he quote tweeted Peyton Bowen's big tweet, "Respect my decision. Just want peace of mind and my family." That's Caleb Hicks, not David Hicks. My mistake. I was looking at Hicks. But David Hicks is still out there, hanging out there, guys. Hasn't signed with Texas A&M yet. Apparently he's going to do something on Friday. But there are signs and there is rumblings that Oklahoma could be in play on that one. I'm going to feel like a fool if he signs with Texas A&M, of course. No, I won't. I don't care. But, there's I don't know if you call it momentum or sentiment or whatever, but there are certainly some people who think that that's still on the table for OU.
Yeah, PTSD is what I would call it. I think that's what Oklahoma fans have with
I think that's what I have right now.
with David Hicks.
Yeah, no, David Hicks is still kind of the last big kind of matzo ball, just kind of hanging out there of like, what's going on with that? He hasn't signed yet either, obviously. So we'll let you know when we find out about Mr. Hicks, if that's a possibility. Remember, he was at Bedlam. He was there. Obviously, David Stone, who's a 2024 guy, and him and Hicks are close. They're kind of been pushing each other one way. There's some rumblings that Stone is kind of leaning toward OU. He's trying to get Hicks to do it first, saying, hey, I'll meet you there in a year. I don't know. We'll see how that all shakes out, but we'll keep up with AllSooners.com, and we'll keep you posted. All right. Take another time out here. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. Oklahoma did, in all the insanity, pick up another transfer today. We'll talk about that as well as a little bit of NFL talk and a little bit of hoops on the way out as well. Wrapping up the AllSooners Podcast. Final segment up next. Final segment of the AllSooners Podcast, episode 166. Wrap up some few things here. Send you into your Christmas weekend, and we'll come back next week. We're planning to have a Cheez-It Bowl preview show probably next Wednesday, back at normal time. And of course, we'll have our post-game show, our final one of the year, after the game next Thursday at, what is it still Camping World Stadium? Is that still the name? It changes. It is Camping World Stadium for the Cheez-It Bowl next week. See how that goes. Good vibes may end for a moment in that game. We'll talk about that next week, though, as we preview that one for you. Mentioned right before the break there that Oklahoma did kind of somewhat, in all the smoke of the Peyton Bowen insanity, they also made a transfer addition today, and a pretty significant one. Reggie Pearson Jr. from Texas Tech. He's a grad transfer. He's played a lot of college football. He was actually at Wisconsin before Texas Tech. Then he went to the Red Raiders. Pretty productive football player for them. Pretty good numbers. Had a couple interceptions, some pass deflections. Oklahoma fans should know him because the last time he played a game for Texas Tech, he was dismantling Dillon Gabriel on the trick play in overtime that knocked Gabriel out for a snap. That was him who came in and laid the absolute boom on DG. And he included it in his commitment video, which was a bold move. You see Marvin Mims called it out, too, because Gabriel retweeted it, and Mims then tweeted at Dillon Gabriel saying, like, dude, he has you getting smoked in this video. It's kind of a bold move for you to retweet it. And the guy was, Pearson said, hey, we're teammates now. It's all good. So, but a good get here for Oklahoma. I mean, it's a veteran ad. I mean, I don't think anybody's thinking he's going to come in and just, be top 5 NFL draft pick, but he's a guy who's played a lot of college football. He clearly can hit. Oklahoma knows that well, and I imagine he's going to be in the running to, get a pretty decent amount of snaps next year.
He played on a defense that wasn't real good. We all know Texas Tech's defense was a little bit gave up a lot of passing yards. He played, according to Pro Football Focus, played 714 snaps this season. That ranked 5th on the team there for the Red Raiders. So that's good. You want somebody to come in and be experienced. A couple of grades for you. According to Pro Football Focus, his overall defensive grade was 53.4, which isn't great. And his run defense grade was 42.7, which is not very good at all. It's one of the lower numbers you'll see on the Oklahoma team. If you're under 50%, there's a little bit of a red flag, and his was 42.7. So he's a guy that's going to come in and compete. Here's the deal, guys. You got 7 newcomers coming in at defensive back. One of them's a junior college transfer, and then you got the first one you add out of the transfer portal after signing day or on signing day is a defensive back. So now you got 8 newcomers in the defensive backfield. Those guys, those safety coaches, Brandon Hall and Jay Valai, the corners coach, those guys are going to have their hands full figuring out who's who.
Yeah, for sure. The "Hi, my name is" name tag is going to be very necessary. But when you look at it, the flip side of that is C.J. Colden, Trey Morrison, Justin Broyles, fare thee well. No eligibility left unless C.J. Colden weirdly tries to get one of those medical waivers back. But every time we've talked to him, he seems like a guy that's very did my year at OU, ready to chase whatever's next. So that would be stunning to me at least. And then you lost via the portal Bryson Washington, Josh Eaton, Jordan Mukes, Kendall Dennis. So that's 7 guys leaving. You're bringing 7 guys in. Dolby's a different conversation, like we said, because he's a JUCO guy, maybe a little bit more ready to rock and roll. And while very talented, sure, absolutely, don't want to take anything away from him, it's not realistic to assume that no matter how talented you are, with how complex this defense is, that all 6 of those guys will be able to come in and play some sort of role, right? So going out there, getting a Pearson, getting an experienced guy to help bridge that gap for you. He's the thumper. So if he can tighten up some of that stuff that led to those bad grades, but he can inspire that, him and Key Lawrence, they're the 2 of those guys that can come down, hit somebody and fire up a sideline, stuff like that. So that can get it going. I just think it's wise as kind of a way to bridge that gap, like I said, because again, all 7 of those guys that sign not going to be ready to play when Oklahoma opens up this year. And that's totally fine because that is absolutely the normal life of a college football recruit.
Yeah. couple of quick numbers for you. The 42.7 run defense grade that I referenced from Pro Football Focus ranked last on the team, on the Texas Tech team. His missed tackle percentage was 22.1. He had 50 total tackles and 17 missed tackles. So,
yeah,
look forward to seeing him play.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of impact he had. I mean, it's kind of the tale. I mean, just last year we did this. I would have thought probably Trey Morrison would have a big impact, and he didn't really.
Right.
And CJ Cole ended up having a bigger one than I think we thought he would. So who knows? But he could wind up being an important ad. We'll find out in due time. But yeah, to clean that up from earlier. So yeah, Dylan Gabriel quote tweeted it with the eye emojis, and Marvin Mims tweeted him, "Bro hit you like that," and then put it in the video, and you reposted it with a bunch of laughing emojis and said, "Welcome, Reggie Pearson. Congrats, brother." So kind of a funny little thing like that. That is a tough scene for Gabriel. I mean, it's a no-win situation, but he commits to your team and smoked you and put it in the video, and now you have to acknowledge it. It's a tough deal for there was no winning that for DG, but it is what it is. So we'll see what Pearson does in an Oklahoma uniform. All right, shifting from obviously all the talk about future Sooners, some former ones, Sooners in the NFL over the last weekend. There's a lot of things that kind of happened. Ryan's Raiders game featured Ramondre Stevenson making a little bit of a mistake there. It wasn't all on him, obviously, but a little bit of a mishap. He can probably talk about that if he wants. What stuck out to you guys from the NFL over the weekend? Obviously, not as good of a round 2 for Baker for Hooves Rams.
Oof.
Tough spot there in Lambeau where it was 1 and really cold against a much better team, a much better defense there than what the Raiders have currently. But what stuck out for NFL Sooners from you guys over the weekend?
I didn't fault Ramondre for that play. That's what he's supposed to do, is break off, get some yards, last play of the game, look for an option to pitch it, look for a lateral and an option, and he did. And then the other guy takes it and just starts running around the ball and throws it to the middle of the field. That's not what you're supposed to do. Never seen a game lost like that before, have we? Jalen Hurts continues on his MVP pace. Guys, he's going to win it, isn't he? That's unbelievable. Think about that.
No,
Mahomes.
Not with the injury. I think
how bad is it, though? I heard it was not that bad.
Minshew, they announced Minshew he's probably going to go this weekend against Dallas, and I think that Hurts, I think that's going to derail it for him, unfortunately, just because Mahomes is also having an unreal year, obviously, but Hurts was doing that. I really, unfortunately, think that shoulder, it was reported as a sprained shoulder and his throwing shoulder. Yeah. I think that's unfortunately going to derail Hurts' MVP candidacy. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I
appreciate you saying that because I hadn't seen that.
I just know my resident Philly connection, Mr. Chisholm Holland, who we're with every day. He's they've pretty much said Minshew's going to be the guy heading into the big tilt with Dallas this weekend.
Well, they've got 4 games left, and they've clinched basically everything at this point.
They need one win in the last 3, I think. I think there's 3.
Yeah. He's got 13 rushing touchdowns, and he's one of the best. He's got some of the best passing numbers of anybody in the league. I still think he's got a shot.
Shot for sure. I'm just one game. Yeah, I'm worried that you know how this goes. It becomes momentum, toward the end, and I'm a little worried that if Philly, quote unquote, drops 2 out of 3 on the way in because they only needed to win the 1 and Hurts plays maybe week 17. I'm just worried for him that the momentum will swing out of his favor because the number, everything. I totally agree with you. If I was voting, I would vote for Jalen Hurts. I'm just worried that it's not going to shake out the way because that's how this thing goes, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it doesn't really diminish the point that it's just mind-blowing that Jalen Hurts is the one we're sitting here talking about among Kyler and Baker and all the years that Sam Bradford put in. Yeah. We're talking about Jalen Hurts being the one that's making a run at the MVP. What? Unbelievable.
Yeah, unreal for sure. Trent Williams is having a great time out there blocking for Brock Purdy. That's been a ton of fun to see that get going. I do bring bad news on the Ramondre Stevenson conversation. As someone who consumed every ounce of post-game Patriots drama because I can't get enough of it. That was not the play call. The play call was just supposed to be a draw, and he goes down. Ramondre was creating off schedule, and then Jacoby Myers lost his freaking mind, being like, I'm going to throw it back to Mac Jones when all of our offensive linemen are down the field, meaning that Mac Jones is going to have to outrun 11 Raiders defenders to the end zone. Despite the fact that the game was tied, I still say this. If you didn't have faith that Mac Jones could throw the ball to the end zone, The Raiders, before their last touchdown drive, had 2 first downs in the entire second half. Why did Matt Patricia not just kneel on the football and say, we've got all the momentum, let's go to overtime?
Yep.
So that's where I would absolve Ramondre, even though he did say after the game that the play call was draw, get what you can get, not to pitch it, and he pitched it anyway.
It was a bad decision by Ramondre, but it was an inexplicably horrible decision by Jacoby. Yeah. I mean, that made no sense. Like you saying, Ryan. Like, Mac Jones is gonna out. He had all 21 players on the field in front of him. Yeah. He's not scoring. Lamar Jackson's not scoring, especially Mac Jones isn't scoring. That stiff arm was all time too. Right? He just
that was amazing.
Earth.
Josh, you wrote the story today, didn't you, about 8 Pro Bowlers, former Oklahoma players are in the Pro Bowl?
8 Pro Bowlers. I was going to mention that. 8 Pro Bowlers for Oklahoma today.
4 of the 16 offensive linemen. 4 of the 16 offensive linemen are Pro Bowlers.
Pretty nuts.
Are Oklahoma Sooners. That's unbelievable.
Mark Andrews, CeeDee Lamb, 4 offensive linemen, like you said, which is Creed Humphrey, Orlando Brown, Lane Johnson, and Trent Williams. And then Tress Way, who just continues to be a beast. Did you guys see the video of the Washington Commanders, the special teams guy who got selected to the Pro Bowl? Tress Way was more pumped for him than the guy almost. Just, you haven't watched that video. It has like 100,000 likes on Twitter now, which is nuts. It's awesome. Go watch. Tress Way, just the most likable human ever. Just go watch that video and enjoy that. And also shout out, too, real quick, for Kenneth Murray, who's having a sneaky nice season for the Chargers. They've had a lot of injuries on their defense, but he's been a big part of kind of stabilizing it there. They dominated the Titans pretty much defensively. They got a late score to get it to 14, but Derrick Henry didn't do it. I mean, they did a nice job in that game. Big win for Kenneth Murray and the Chargers as well. So shout out to him.
Quick Kenneth Murray note. I was looking at the recruiting rankings today. I think he was a 3-star. He was all the way down at the bottom of the team ranking in terms of the individual player rankings. Yeah. Just like Braden Willis. There are guys who come in as 3-stars who have no business doing what they're doing, and what do? They stick with it, they work, they evolve, and they work on their game, and they become superstars. Kenneth Murray became a first-round pick, Oklahoma's first-round linebacker in 25 years, something like that. Just crazy, and I think Braden Willis is going to do something similar.
Would you say 3 stars into 4 stars, 4 stars? No, somebody else. My fault.
Absolutely. Kenneth Murray, yeah, good stuff for him. So wrapping up here with some basketball on the way out here. Jumpman Invitational for men and women. We'll start with the men. They smoked Central Arkansas Saturday, whatever. Central Arkansas is probably the worst team I've ever seen Oklahoma play. They are so bad. Ryan and I were there. It was apparent quickly, like, oh my goodness, this team stinks. But they did come back. Nice win on Tuesday against Florida. It was one of those games you just needed. You lost to Arkansas, you lost to Villanova. You had a good week in Florida, but you don't really have a ton to hang your hat on in the non-conference. Not that this win is some amazing resume booster, but Florida's solid. They're a tournament hopeful. Neutral site, there in Charlotte. And they beat them. Good stuff. Grant Sherfield continues to be awesome. That was a win that they needed, though. A nice, solid win, and they have Texas next weekend to start Big 12 play.
Yeah, Gary Sheffield is a heck of a player. Wait, hold on. Being told it's Grant Sherfield. Sorry. Yeah. I'm not even cover the team like you guys do, and I'm going to fall into that trap. He's so smooth. He's so much fun to watch. He's better than we were led to believe. He's better than being an all-conference player at his previous stop. He's really good. He's going to make a push for first team All Big 12. But no, I agree, Josh. I think that Florida win was really good. I think can be a resume builder. It's one of those games where they've got a good loss and a bad loss, and a medium loss is what you'd say. But this was a good win because it's at a neutral site. It's one of those net rating builders or RPI builders we used to call them.
Yeah, and that's what one of the last things Porter Moser talked about with Josh and I and everybody else that was there for that Central Arkansas game is that heading into Florida, Oklahoma had 2 non-conference games left, the one against Florida, and then the Big 12 SEC Challenge, they get Alabama. And so Porter was saying, yeah, that is 20 straight quad 1 or quad 2 opportunities. And so always good to pick that up. But the real story here is that Sherfield hits that early foul trouble, and it looked like everything was going to fall apart. Florida ballooned the lead up to 11, and we're going, yeah, this isn't going to work. Sherfield's going to have to come back in, figure out a way to not pick up a third foul, and just hope and pray. And it felt like about halfway through Sherfield being on the bench, Bijan Cortez got up to speed and really settled that thing down for Oklahoma. Sherfield then came back. They're able to go on that 9-2 run right at the end of the half and cut it down to 2. And then in the second half, it felt like Florida, once they stopped getting those easy runouts in transition, it became kind of a fist fight defensively, and Oklahoma was up for it, and Florida wilted. They did not look like they wanted a physical basketball game that, not that it was super slow, but just with limited transition opportunities. And the difference this year than what Oklahoma had last year is you can trust Sherfield to cook. No shot on Elijah Harkless or Emoja Gibson, who had their moments, but Sherfield is just way more consistent offensively. And so now Oklahoma set themselves up to, if you remember back to last year, I feel like because OU was so close last year, it's going to be a constant storyline of comparing their track through things. Last year, Oklahoma went into conference play with a nice win over Florida and a nice win over Arkansas, and then they couldn't find a win to save their life toward the end of December, and that's what kind of buried them. He didn't get the Arkansas win. Arkansas is a lot better this year than they were last year. I don't think that Villanova loss is going to look as bad as they kind of got some guys back in that game and have stabilized a little bit. And so you beat Florida. Now, here's the thing. Don't drop 7-9 to close the year or whatever it was by the time we got to mid-January. If Oklahoma can find a way to do that, they're going to be sitting a lot prettier to fork up into the tournament. And by everyone's projections right now, they're between a 7 and 10, wherever you look at them.
Yeah, I think Hoove, you said it best, 3-4 weeks ago. They're going to go as far as Grant Sherfield takes them. I mean, he's. I made the joke yesterday, but if Grant Sherfield has to miss a game this year, if he's ruled out of injury or something, bet everything you own on the other team to cover because he's incredibly important. I mean, he's everything for them. And their defense is great, but he's a huge addition. They actually have a guy to turn to late in the games, which they didn't really have last year. So that's a nice get for Oklahoma. We'll see. Like I said, they play Texas next weekend. That's going to be a big one, fun one, New Year's Eve afternoon game. You would imagine the crowd will be decent at Lenovo Center. I mean, who knows? OU basketball attendance has been an issue for a long time, well documented. But you would think Texas in town, it would be all right. But we'll see next Saturday after we get back from Florida. Wrapping up with the women. They beat Florida as well. They actually housed them. Wasn't really even close in Charlotte last night. Shout out Maddie Williams, who was really good again. She actually hit the 2,000-point threshold on Sunday against Southern. Team's good. They're 10-1. Good non-conference. Had that one ugly game against Utah, but just the way they play, that's going to happen. And again, like we said at the time, that was a back-to-back. I really don't care about that too much. They whip up on Florida. Now you go into Big 12 play, and we'll see what they can do also on New Year's Eve. I think they play West Virginia to get their Big 12 play started. But a nice win for them as well over the Gators.
They got a transfer too, didn't they? Peyton Verhulst?
Yes, I forgot about that.
Be available next year. So, I mean,
right.
they're kind of on a little bit of a high right now, riding a little bit of a momentum surge in Jenny Baranchik's second year. Number 2 in all-time three-point shooting. Climbed up the charts. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Maddie Williams talking about?
No, not Maddie.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got confused.
Yeah, Maddie cooked to kind of close that game, but Taylor Robertson was the one she was just bombing it early on, and it felt like this team this year having a couple of freshmen that can come in and contribute, having Ana Yanusa still healthy at this point in the year, knock on wood. They just feel like, yes, it's a lot of the same pieces as last year, but they still feel even deeper. Like, and last year, there were still moments where Taylor Robinson would play every single minute. You know what I mean? And so it feels like this team's a little bit deeper, and they still are able to play that high flying way. And it's just if they're deep like that, and there can be moments where they can take turns where maybe Taylor Robinson comes out hot in the first quarter, Maddie Williams is the closer. Not that they needed anyone to close anything; they were just absolutely pouring it on. But you feel like that's a good formula for them to not. I don't know if wear down's the right word, but we saw the back-to-back at the Big 12 tournament, a good Baylor team, but it just felt like with all the emotion Baylor had, plus Oklahoma not playing on day 2 of the Big 12 tournament and forever, it felt like they wilted a little bit. And then obviously the sour way that they kind of ended the season. Feels like they're a little bit sturdier as far as being able to bring that more consistent performance. And because of how good they were, the Oklahoma Sooners were the only team to go unbeaten at the Jumpman Invitational, men and women.
Good call there. I mentioned it on Twitter as well. I made the joke about it, but it is true. If you guys notice this unprecedented run of dominance for Oklahoma against Florida, just in sports in general. I mean, going back to like the softball winning the WCBS final against them, whatever year that was. Football housed them in the Cotton Bowl. Baseball eliminated them from the NCAA tournament last year in the regionals. Basketball, men have beat them 2 years in a row now, and now the women. It's Sooners own the Gators right now, just in every sport. I think gymnastics got them recently.
Sooner Nation would trade every one of those for 2008.
They would trade every one of those for DeMarco
Florida guy came and found me and said that.
Yeah,
damn you, Tim Tebow. Damn you to hell.
You trade every bit of it for DeMarco Murray to not return that kick. Against Missouri?
Right.
Was that Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri Big 12 championship.
Right. But
did you guys see these this interesting number tweet just now about an hour ago from Fox College Football, CFB on Fox? These are the 25 most valuable programs in college football. Which program is the most surprising? Number one on this list, college football's most valuable programs, according to the estimated annual value per Go Banking Rates, which use the Equity and Athletics Disclosure Act to value their schools, evaluate their schools. Number one, University of Oklahoma. Number one, $101 million. Texas is number two at $97 million. I get the feeling a lot of that was that big year they had, that record-setting year they had in donations.
Yeah, I don't mean to doubt Go Banking Rates, and I know that they have a sound methodology, but when you look over this list, OU, Texas, Georgia, Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama, Tennessee, A&M, makes sense. Ohio State and Clemson are down at 22 and 23.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Utah at 9 pouring money in, Nebraska at 12. It's fascinating, but it just doesn't add up to, like, in your head what you think when you're like, hey, when we see like the Forbes list, that it's not just like athletic disclosures, it's trying to value everything, and you're like, oh, Texas football is worth billions and billions of dollars. You know what I mean? It's interesting for sure, and it shows President Joe Harris was not lying when we were at that Board of Regents meeting. They all slipped through, and he's like, right after Lincoln Riley left, he's like, and oh yeah, the donors are fired up. They're ready to give some money out.
Yeah, that booster check writing campaign that they were on matters a huge amount. But whatever their methodology is, whatever their math to come up with this, I'm a little sketchy on how Ohio State's number 22 when they literally have the most massive fan base in all of college football.
Well, if this is, and again, apologies, my fault for not diving in a little bit to see what it's an actual measure of. If it's fundraising, people in Columbus are livid at Ryan Day for getting pantsed by Jim Harbaugh 2 years in a row. Then you look at the recruiting class that they're not.
This is numbers from 21, I think 2021 fiscal year. So 2021-22 hasn't been released yet. So some of that's going to be at play, and I don't know if that would include then the big year that Oklahoma had in terms of donations. I think it might, because that was last fiscal year. So it would have to, yeah. But I just find that interesting. OU number one in the nation, most valuable college football programs. Wow.
Yeah, for me, I mean, not to disparage the good people at Fox, but that Twitter account, that CFB on Fox, has had a rough go of it in the last week or two. If you guys recall, they tweeted that TCU, Sonny Dykes, was the first-year coach to take his team to the playoff, and it's like, no, Lincoln Riley did that, and Ryan Day did that at Oklahoma and Ohio State. Then they tweeted it again, and it had Lincoln Riley 2015. And it was like, no, he was the offensive coordinator then. 2017, when Lincoln Riley did it. And then they had another one that was wrong as well. I think they said Oklahoma was the only school to have won the Heisman and the Naismith since 2000. It was like, no, Ohio State did that as well. So they've had a rough go of just doing incorrect things.
Well, to be fair to Fox, USC announced Lincoln Riley as their head coach, and they tried to put how many times he had been to the playoff. They said he had gone 3 times and included 2 as a head coach and 1 as a coordinator, which I'm like, okay, if you just want to say he's been 3 times as a head coach, but he's been 4 times total. So if you're including 2015, then it's 4. And if you're trying to pump it, that's what you want to put out there, USC. Get after it.
And they left that one for no apparent reason. Yeah, I remember that. That was wild times. Wild times in our lives. It's been a long time since we were in that time, but what can you say? All right, that's it for us. Hopefully, we had a lot to get through. I think we got through pretty much most if not everything. Full sign day recap there for you. Again, like Ryan said, there is a load on AllSooners.com. Ryan, grinding through getting all those capsules right so you can know what all the players are. There's highlight tapes for all the guys as well. The transfer latest. Some more stories from getting. We also talked to a bunch of players this week in Venable. So we've had a lot going on this week, and there's a lot on there for you at AllSooners.com. We leave for Florida on Monday, right? Monday, yeah, 26th. We'll be down there, boots on the ground, bringing you coverage. We're, like we said, planning to do a show next week, probably Wednesday, to preview the ball game from Florida. We'll actually be together down there doing the show. So look for that next week.
And then I'm staying 4 days after that for the Under Armour game where Oklahoma's got 8 players playing in the Under Armour All-America game. So I'll be down there for that, bringing you videos, interviews, highlights, stories, all kinds of good stuff at All Sooners.
Yeah, lots of good stuff coming from that as well. So yeah, who will be getting a tan? He'll be in Florida for a long time. But we'll be down there for the game. Looking forward to it. Should be interesting to see what Oklahoma can put out there next Thursday. Week from today, actually. Week from today is the game, believe it or not. So there you have it. That's it for us. Thank you so much for listening, watching, all the good stuff. Like I said, we'll be back next week, probably Wednesday. That's the plan for our Cheez-It Bowl preview show, essentially, plus wrapping up anything else that happens, recruiting or transfer portal or otherwise. Also wrapping up, I guess there's not any basketball, so never mind. No basketball next week, but you get the idea. Anything that happens, we'll have for you next week on the show. You can catch that one on iTunes, Spotify, Google, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. If you have an Amazon able device, just say, Alexa, play the All Sooners podcast. It's posted on our website, allsooners.com. Click on the playlist on your phone, your tablet, or your computer, and, of course, watch all the shows, as well as the Venables, Levy, Roof press conferences, all the player breakouts, all that good stuff on Who's YouTube page, John Hoover Media. That's it for us. We'll see you from Florida. For Ryan Chapman and John Hoover, I'm Josh Callaway.